Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a book tag, a good old book tag, because it is the middle of the year, and if you're part of the bookish community online, you'll know that that means that everyone and their mother is posting the mid-year freak out tag videos, and it's what the people want. I love watching those videos. I sometimes watch them from creators I don't even care for or that I have never seen before, just because I find them interesting. So I didn't prepare for this. We're going to go into this blindly. I know the questions, obviously. As I said, I've watched a couple of tags, but I haven't thought on them too much. So let's get straight into it. Question number 1. How is your reading going so far this year? I think compared to 2023, this has been a fantastic reading year for me. I've already had a couple of 5 stars, and I'm generally just feeling a lot more comfortable and happy with what I'm reading. And I feel like I have found a little bit of more of my own taste. The next question is the best book you've read so far in 2024. And for me, I have like 2 books that I would say were my absolute favorite of the year. The first one is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. Let me just grab that for you. I can't grab it. I actually lent it out to a friend. Never mind. But this is a book about 2 friends. They're 2 young women. They studied together, I think English literature in Dublin, and they now live very different lives. One of them is working in a publishing house in like a very poorly paying position, and she still lives with roommates in Dublin, and the other one is a widely successful and well acknowledged author that has recently moved to the countryside of Ireland. That's kind of where the story takes off, and it's just letters between these 2 women and conversations and like snippets from their life. There's also romance in these, which I think was done very well. I really enjoyed the romances, one more than the other, but overall I did like them. I really enjoyed the writing style. I listened to it mostly on audiobook, and if you are skeptical of Sally Rooney because she doesn't use quotation marks, which I personally also don't mind reading, but if you do, I would recommend checking out an audiobook because you won't notice that there aren't quotation marks. Beautiful World, Where Are You is a very hopeful novel. It has a positive outlook, and it's still sad and like melancholic and all of these things and all of the things that people really like and enjoy Sally Rooney for, but it's just more positive. And to me personally, I'm a positive person. I don't love misery. So this was just really up my alley, and I would highly recommend if maybe you didn't really like another novel of Sally Rooney's, but you are not sure that you're completely done with her, because I do think that tonally this one was very different. And then the other one is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. Did I say that right? Yes. It is a little bit of a longer last name. Fun fact, Mandel is the German word for almond. And this is a sci-fi novel, kind of speculative fiction, I guess, that is loosely part of a trilogy, and this is actually the last book. Like, you can read all of them separately. They all make sense as a concluded story. But I learned after reading it that if you want to really deeply delve into this universe, then reading Station 11 and The Glass Hotel, I believe, before this one is actually better, just so you don't make the same mistake. Regardless, I still really enjoyed this one. I was kind of intimidated. I don't know why, because I actually love sci-fi, but I thought that maybe this wouldn't be for me or I wouldn't get it, but it was so good. There was so much critique of society, and I didn't even tell you what the book is about. The book is about, what is the book about? It takes place far, far into the future in a world where global tragedies such as pandemics and natural disasters have become kind of a norm for people, and also a world in which the moon is populated, I believe. Moon? Mars? Another planet, anyway. I'm pretty sure it's the moon. And we follow a lot of different people throughout a lot of different points in history, have a very weird spiritual experience, and we kind of follow how, why, what's happening. I don't want to get into too much more. Just let me tell you, it's great. It was so good. The writing was so poignant and at the same time descriptive, and I feel like every single word in that book is meant to be in that exact place where it sits, right? Like even things like okay and it, me, even those words, they're exactly where they're meant to be, and it's so impressive. And I don't want to speak too soon, but I do think Emily St. John Mandel might be one of my new favorite authors. Like, I think she might come out as the author of the year 2024 for me. I already got 2 more of her books on my e-reader. So yeah, those were my highlights of 2024 so far. The next question is, best sequel you've read so far in 2024? And honestly, have I read any sequels? Let me think on that and then check Goodreads. I don't think I have read any sequels. So let me check. I have not. Actually, I have. I read one sequel. I read Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. Let me just remove this one. And I didn't like it. I actually DNF'd it. And it's very tragic because I really like Magnolia Parks and I don't know whether or not to continue with the series. And I'm honestly tempted to just keep reading and skip the Daisy Hates novels, which some people might say is sacrilegious, but I didn't like Julian. I thought Daisy was very Mary Sue. I liked her relationship with Christian, but that was about it. In my opinion, Magnolia Parks just gave me so much more. Next up is a favorite reread, and this one is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Ruby Red by Kerstin Gier. What a novel. I mean, are you even a German woman if you have not obsessively read this series when you were a teenager? I don't know. I doubt it. And just like every other girl in Germany in the 2000s and 2010s, I was obsessed with this. And I had reread this in 2020. And I needed a good comfort read. I've had a bit of a tough year so far. I just needed the comfort, and oh my god, did it deliver. I rated this 5 stars upon reread. Back in 2020, I actually only gave it 3.5 stars. And I kind of stand by what I said as to why I rated it that. However, just the amount of enjoyment reading this gave me made it worth the 5 stars. Absolutely obsessed. Gideon de Villiers is the man. If you ever wondered what women actually mean when they say they like a bad boy, they mean Gideon de Villiers, okay? Read this and take notes. A genre you've been loving or reading the most? I don't think I've read any genre twice. Actually, I have read like contemporary adult novels. I definitely think Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates are contemporary adult novels, and I guess I've read a couple of other ones that kind of fall under that category. But like the other ones also kind of count as mystery or romance or literary fiction, which I don't think these books were. So I'd go with literary as to what I've read the most of, just because it's always a good palate cleanser. I almost always enjoy a good, decent literary novel. My favorite one I've read so far is a German one, which I just wanted to shout out real quick. 22 Bahn by Caroline Wahl, which was so good. I cried. I was on a trip with my boyfriend's family whilst reading this, and we were at like a climbing park. Is that what you call that? And I didn't climb because I don't like climbing. Sue me. So instead I kind of waited on the ground, and we were like sitting on this covered porch type of thing, and I was just sitting on the floor because there were no chairs left and reading this, and I was crying, like properly bawling my eyes out at this family gathering of my boyfriends. And this will just forever be a very fond memory of mine. So yeah, high-key recommend. The sequel just came out. I haven't read it yet because they didn't put out a paperback, and I'm low-key hoping and waiting for the paperback to come out. But it takes place on Rügen, which, fun fact, my family is from. So yeah, Okay, actually talking about that, the next question kind of falls into that. A new release you really wanted to read. I definitely want to read Windstärke 17, I think is the name of that book. And other than that, I'm not caught up in any new releases. I don't think I even have another new release on my TBR right now. If I have, please feel free to correct me, but I don't think I do. I don't really keep up with new releases. I would like to read Funny Story maybe this year, but not, like, if I don't, it'll be fine, right? I have enjoyed Emily Henry in the past, so I'd like to read another novel by her this year, but it doesn't have to be Funny Story. Again, most anticipated release of the year, of the second half of the year. I don't really keep... Oh, actually, that is not true. Oh, what is it called? Ooh, this is embarrassing. Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca. So, unfortunately, I didn't really document my reading journey of last year, but oh boy, you would have been in for a treat, because at the beginning of the year I was like, I'm a romance girly now. I love love stories. I will read romance novels from now on, and I ended up hating almost all of them, except for the Ren Fair series by Jen DeLuca. Absolutely obsessed. 5 out of 5 stars for almost all of them. The only one, my least favorite was the second one, and then the first and the fourth one got 5 stars, and the third one got a 4.5, I think. So good. Absolutely obsessed. Can't wait to reread them. Got the Illumicrate special editions. Actually, maybe, I don't think you can see them, but I have them over there. Fantastic. So naturally, I did what any sane person would do, and I subscribed to Jen DeLuca's newsletter. And she's announced a new novel for, I think, the 13th of August. Yeah. Called Haunted Ever After. I will eat this up. I'm not sure if I'm getting a physical copy. I really want to, but I'm leaving the country for a while shortly after, so I don't know if it would make sense for me to buy a physical copy just to then not be able to read it and have to leave it here for a whole year. Also, she said in one of her newsletters that she is writing a fifth Ren Fair novel, which I'm hoping she does, because there's a pink cover missing. I don't make the rules, but if you look at this order of books, there's a pink cover missing. It doesn't matter. My point is, I'm hoping she does a 5th book, and I'm hoping it's going to be pink. Next up, biggest disappointment. I feel like I have so many for this category. The first one, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This was my first Riley Sager, and also I think the first adult thriller I've ever read. And I just... mild spoilers, I guess. The conclusion to the book had a supernatural twist, which I just didn't expect at all. Like, I had no idea that that would be what it was. But so because of that, I assumed that there would be like a real life human explanation, but there wasn't. But I just tried to convince myself the entire time that it was, and it was just really confusing. And had I known that it would have the supernatural twist, I probably wouldn't have picked it up. And that has made me kind of apprehensive to read anything else by Riley Sager, because I didn't really like this kind of twist. And so if all or most of his books actually do this, I'm not sure that I'd actually want to read them. You know what I mean? So that was just really based on my own expectations. I thought the book was really... I thought the book was well written. I really just loved the vibes. Like, the vibes. It very much gave We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. And it was just so good. And I was very upset that I wasn't on a lake house in the summer. I actually had pneumonia while reading it, which wasn't as fun. And then the other one, Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. So I just told you about my history with romance novels. We're not doing so good, okay? Romance novels and me, we're having a tough time. I'm trying. I'm really trying to be one of the romance girlies. And I have enjoyed romances in the past. In the past. Like, you know, the Ren Fair series. I also really liked People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Everything else that was romance that I've read, I didn't like so much, including this one. Mr. Wrong Number was just so stupid. Like, I don't even... This wasn't a me problem, right? Like, I think with The House Across the Lake, I was the problem. I had wrong expectations. I wanted something completely different out of the book. Mr. Wrong Number was just a bad book, and that wasn't on me. The characters were very, very shallow. The relationships between them were even shallower. The main conflict of the book doesn't make any sense because the conflict relies on the relationship between two of the characters, but those two characters didn't actually have a relationship on page, right? Like, they were like, oh my god, they're so close, and like, I don't think they had a single conversation throughout this entire novel, and you can't do that. Also, the spicy scenes were so yucky. Like, I remember I was reading this in my school library at my university, and I physically cringed. Yeah, no. Unfortunately, that is a no from me. I did hear that Lynn Painter's adult novels are a lot less good than her YA novels, but honestly, I just think that other than mysteries and thrillers, I'm kind of leaving my YA days behind me. My biggest surprise of the year? That's a good question. Overall, I think I just read a lot of good books, but probably Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is a novel about a young woman who works in her family's wedding planning business. So her mother and her 3 aunts, they decided to start a wedding planning business, and the protagonist has a degree in photography, and so they were like, hey, do you want to do the wedding photography for us? And she's a people pleaser, so she said yes. And she's not really happy in that and everything, but she goes on an arranged date that was like arranged by her mom, and the guy turns out to be not so great, and she accidentally kills him. You know, silly little goofy dating stories, and chaos ensues. And I thought it would just be like a very funny, cozy mystery, but the main character, she's Indo-Chinese, so her family is originally from China, migrated to Indonesia, then migrated to the US. And there's a lot of Indonesian and Chinese spoken in this book, which I thought was really cool, because if you don't know, I know a little bit of Chinese. So I was actually able to like understand some of the things she was saying, which I just thought was really cool. And it just gave me kind of a lens into this cultural background that I wasn't too familiar with at all, which I really enjoyed. But the reason this book surprised me so much, I ended up rating it 4.5 stars, is because the writing was so good. I had to put the book down multiple times because the emotions that Jessie Q. Sutanto wanted me to feel while reading it just were too strong, and I couldn't handle them. And I very rarely have authors that make me feel so much while reading their book. And that was just so, it was just so well written, and that was what surprised me about it. So for that reason, I think this award goes to Dial A for Aunties, and maybe also Sea of Tranquility, because I did expect to like it, otherwise I wouldn't have read it. But for it to turn out to be like one of my favorite books of the year, and for Emily St. John Mandel becoming an author that I think could be a favorite author, that was not what I expected when I picked that up. And then also favorite new author, either debut or new to me, I think Emily St. John Mandel takes the cake for that. Also Caroline Wahl, maybe, her 22 Bahnen book was her debut, and I'm very excited to see what else she does, because it was so good. And I still think about it a lot too. My newest favorite character, I think Nathan from Dial A for Aunties. He's the love interest, and he was so fine. And what a man. You know what I mean? Like, what a man. He was great. And I really, really liked him. I thought he was funny, he was hot, he was smart, he was in charge of what he was doing, he was confident, he was just everything that I enjoy about a character. Like, I really enjoy reading about very confident characters, because they tend to be very unwhiny, and I don't love whiny characters. I'm whiny myself. I don't need that energy even more in my life. Book that made you cry. I think the only thing that's made me cry this year is 22 Bahn. It was just really funny, honestly. Like, it was low-key traumatizing, but it was also very funny. And I think my boyfriend's family low-key thought I was an absolute freak for just crying at the climbing area. But you know what? That's who I am, I guess. Okay, next question. A book that made you happy. And of those, I have many. I would say, I think the first one that came to mind to me was just reread. It was just, I was kicking my feet, I was giggling, I just had such a good time with this. It made me nostalgic, it made me giddy, it just gave me all the right emotions, you know? It was just perfect. Other than that, The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. This is a book about 4 English women from the 1920s, I believe, taking a vacation in Italy. Like, literally being like, oh, there's this castle in Italy, free for rent. I only have one friend, let's find other women that want to go. So they do, and all 4 of them end up going. And they're just very different women. They don't really know each other. They don't really understand who's responsible for what, or who even wants to be responsible for what. But it's a book about taking a beach vacation, literally. Like, just how good it is for your mental health to get out every once in a while, the need to touch the sea and just, you know, be away from your life and your responsibilities for a while, which is something that I'm a big supporter of. I think, like, personally, I go a little bit insane if I don't leave the country every once in a while. And obviously, like, that's a privilege and not everyone has the ability to do that, but even just camping out in the woods for a weekend can be so rehabilitating to the soul. And like, it's just about the importance of being in a castle in Italy. And it's so beautiful, and it's so well written, and it's so fun and funny as well, and really enjoyed this one. High key recommend. And this is also a fantastic vacation read, and it's called The Enchanted April, so obviously I would recommend reading it in spring, because it's very much about, you know, in England it's still very dreary and cloudy and cold, and then they go to Italy and it's just the flowers are in bloom, it's warm, the sun is shining, and it's just kind of about that feeling of coming out of a very long winter. So if you are in that position, also in your life, like if you're coming out of a very stressful period in your life, I feel like this would also be a good read. The most beautiful book you have bought so far? I don't know, because I mean, first off, I don't think I've bought that many books this year. I'm checking right now, give me a second. I really have not. I guess I do really like the cover of Magnolia Parks. I know the people are divided on this, but I think this is a very beautiful cover, and I think these are some of the most iconic covers of this decade. Like, I think in 100 years, design students are going to study these covers. These and like the titles of these books, they just have such a clear identity in a way that a lot of other books don't have, in my opinion. Like, I feel like no one's ever going to get Magnolia Parks confused with another novel, just because the cover and the name and the author, everything is just so uniquely this book. Whereas I feel like a lot of other romance novels you could get mixed up just because the covers oftentimes look very similar, the author names sound oftentimes very similar, even the titles themselves sound very similar. But that won't happen with these books. And for that reason, I think that this is a pretty great cover. I do think the best cover of this series so far is the third one, the one with the boat. I'm obsessed with that cover. But as I said, I'm not sure if I'm even going to continue the series, so I haven't bought it yet. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? That is an interesting question, because as I've mentioned, I'm actually not finishing 2024 in Germany. I'll be moving to China in August, temporarily. I'll stay there for a year, but because of that I won't be taking much of anything of my stuff, including my books, sadly. So I really am starting to be in a position where I need to prioritize what I want to finish before my year abroad, because I either finish it before August or I do not finish it until next year. That is what is on my physical TBR, right? And there are a couple of novels that I do really want to read beforehand. I might take like 1 or 2 books with me or repurchase the ebook versions, something along the lines. Okay, one thing I really want to read beforehand is Flawless by Elsie Silver. Just because I feel like with these romance contemporary novels, they're very much a spur of the moment thing. Like, I've bought this a couple of months ago, and I don't think if I don't read it before August and then it sits a year in like a storage unit, and then I unpack it and I have like 1 million books that I take from China and 1 million more books that I got on my e-reader while I was gone, and 1 million more books I want to buy now that I'm back in Germany and actually have a space for books that I buy, I don't think that this one's still going to sound incredibly interesting to me. So this one is one that I would like to read beforehand. I would also really like to read Babel beforehand. I actually started this one before, and this one, if I don't manage to read this one before, I think I'm actually going to take it with me to China, just because I think I really want to read that this year. It's been here a moment too long in my opinion, because I think I'm going to love this. This is a 5-star prediction from me. I'm putting it out there, and I just really want to get to it. I'm just a little bit intimidated by the size and the topic and all of that. I guess those are my like top 2. Also, a book which I just started the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I'm obsessed. I was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't sure I was going to like it because I heard it pitched a lot as Criminal Minds for teenagers, which I think I get why people would pitch it as that, even though I don't think I personally would, but I do really enjoy it, and I'm just halfway through the first book, but I would love to finish the entire series this year or while I am in China, just because I think they're so good and so fun, and I just love a good YA thriller mystery. Favorite video or post you've done so far this year is a video I actually never posted. I do still make videos, I just don't upload them. I either cancel them halfway through, or I forget about them, or I don't actually enjoy the books I'm reading for them, and so I just scratch the whole thing. But I'm still filming pretty regularly, so yeah, just so you know. And one video I did was actually about my reread of Ruby Red, and I originally meant to read the entire trilogy, which obviously didn't happen, but I did read Ruby Red and I filmed an entire reading vlog. I have a thumbnail and everything, I just haven't finished editing it. I can't really tell you why, but yeah, I think that was probably my favorite video because I was very creative in like the angles that I was taking my shots and just, I don't know, I felt very creative while shooting that video. So I think that's probably my favorite video I've done so far this year. But we'll see. We'll see. Love the last question. The last question is my favorite book community members. And for that I'm actually gonna go into my subscribed list, because I feel like otherwise I'm going to just forget all of them. Okay, so the first one is the only Medita from Maddie Tales, which by the way is such a good channel name. She's also a German booktuber, but she does content in English. She reads a lot of romance, and her content is so fun, and she kind of took a hiatus for a couple of months in between for mental health reasons, and I'm so glad she's doing better and she is back and making videos again, and they're just so fun because she's so high energy and so enthusiastic about her reading, and it's like intoxicating almost. Like whenever she reads a book, you're like, oh my god, I want to read a book now, because she's just having so much fun with it, and you can really see that she's someone who's passionately reading, and it's just so fun to see. Next up, I would say the Books Unbound podcast, consisting of Ariel, Bissett and Raylene. I'm so sorry, I have no idea what her last name is. Basically, Ariel Bissett and Raylene, they were both booktubers. I don't think Raylene has her channel anymore, but Ariel still does, and she still uploads videos mostly about her home renovations nowadays. But she was originally a booktuber, and they started a podcast together a couple of years ago that is still going. I think they're in their 5th year making these videos and like the podcast episodes, and they have added video to them now and everything, and they're just so fun. And I commute a lot. I just spend a lot of time on trains, which is so great. I love taking the train. It's never chaotic or exhausting, and it's just kind of become my train ride routine to listen to their podcast episodes. And they talk mostly about books. The podcast is called Books Unbound. I don't think I've said that yet. They talk a lot about their currently readings, what they've bought, what they've finished, all of that classic kind of booktube stuff. But they also just give live updates, and they just have very great chemistry. They also read a lot of books that I don't really hear of in other internet bubbles, so I highly recommend. And then I think my last favorite is Kayla from Books and Lala. I'm the biggest fan of Kayla. I think she was one of the first booktubers I discovered when I got into reading back in 2020, and I'm still consistently watching her videos to this day, which I feel like should tell you a lot about the consistency of quality. Also, she's one of the very few booktubers where I don't really care what she reads, in the sense that even if it's not something that I would be interested in, I still enjoy watching her read those things. And she's so creative with her video concepts and so kind to her community, and she's so well spoken about books, and it's just so fun. And her videos, okay, this is going to be very niche, but her videos have like the same vibe as The Perks of Being a Wallflower and Twilight. And if you understand what these two things have in common, that is the exact vibe her videos give. So yeah, I love her channel as well. I religiously watch her videos. And that is that. We are done with the mid-year freakout tag. I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed your time here. I certainly did. Let me know your favorite book of the year so far, and also something that you really want to read this year. Like something that you really want to get to sooner rather than later. And I wish you all a great day. I hope you have a happy week, loads of sunshine without it being too humid and too sweaty and too disgusting. And I'll see you all in the next video, which hopefully won't go up in 6 months. Okay, bye.